Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I hope I'm not alone, but I have Rhonda here. Um, and my friend Elizabeth might be joining me. But we are 7:01, so I appreciate everybody being on time. It doesn't matter really because this is a recorded podcast. And this is the first time at 7 p.m. Hey. So I will repeat the safe space rules as always. Welcome to my podcast, Dragonfly Discussions. You are welcome to enter your name and location of where you're from. I would like to know where you're from. Say hello. And I am thrilled you are listening, and I hope you enjoy this session together. The safe space reminder, please use your own safe space parameters amongst the chapters I read, which may arouse emotions or memories of your own. You're welcome to excuse yourself or stay. And that also is to myself because we're going to be going into chapter 3, which is really a lot of heavy stuff um, that not only I'm going to remember, but it might rouse memories in others. So give me the same courtesy that I give you. That would be great. Um, so here we go. We're going to start with chapter 3, part 1. And I divided it into two parts because it was so long. It's almost about 10 years of my life. And it starts from when I go into freshman year of high school, and it goes all the way into 4 years of college. So that is about 8 years of lifespan, typically. But, you know, it's about 10 for me. And that's about normal as well. So here we go. Chapter 3, Part 1, Tangling with Demons. Horrors of freshman year. My older brother was the first to graduate from high school, after which he went to Fresno State University. We were fortunate enough to have a college university right in our hometown. So, Fresno, California was one of those big cities where we were able to have a college, a university in our hometown. A lot of people had to travel, move to get into Fresno State. So it was right in my backyard, and it was pretty easy for me. Um, Being the eldest, my brother was usually the first for everything. He was much older, so my sister and I looked up to him a lot. He provided us all the major experiences through his eyes before we got a chance to experience them on our own. So he was like 5 years older than us, and so he went through a lot of things before us, and we were able to see his strengths and weaknesses and mistakes and successes and learn from that. Um, my sister was a grade higher than me, so my stepsister, this is my stepsister, stepbrother. She was the next one to go to high school, and then it was my turn to embark on the journey of high school. So my brother by this time was already out of high school. My sister was now a sophomore, and I was going in to be a freshman. My parents had enrolled us all into a private Catholic high school. It provided us with the best education, and we had the best college opportunities. It really was their reason to put us in San Joaquin Memorial. Supposedly, it was designed to give us the best education, and it really did give me a lot of education, but there was also a lot of other things. It's very expensive to go to Memorial. It's very expensive, a little too expensive, in my opinion. Let's see. I remember feeling very intimidated, nervous, and lonely in the beginning. I felt like I knew no one, even though a lot of my grade school friends also went to the same high school as I did. My best friend Milani went there too. In my opinion, high school is probably one of the hardest phases to survive in life. It's a transition from childhood to teenage, all the while trying to fit in, be cool, be skinny, be pretty. be popular, get good grades, etc. Like the amount of peer pressure in high school is ridiculous, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy. That is another chapter to be talked about. Another discussion on another podcast topic. um, that was supposed to be the best time of my life, right? Like they say, high school's the best time of your life. Oh, you're going to enjoy it. It's the best time of your life. Really? I, um, I would argue. Um, so that was supposed to be, quote, the best time of my life, right? However, my freshman year was tough for me. I was 13 years old, still struggling with my childhood horrors with Debbie, my birth mom. So this is now coming from a private Catholic grade school where I couldn't wear makeup. It was all uniform, and I still had to wear uniform in a high school, but it was a lot more strict. You couldn't wear jewelry, you couldn't wear makeup, you couldn't do anything. Like no freedom whatsoever of expression. And then here I am in high school, and I'm still going through the bad things with my birth mom. So my birth mom was a really bad mom. She was an alcoholic, drug addict most of my life. And now I'm going into my freshman year, still struggling with all of this trauma that my birth mom put me through. Let's see, there's my grandfather he put me through, the mental abuse. In chapter 2, you'll see at the end of that. Um, my grandmother enabling, and my aunt being a partier, my uncle just trying to make the best of it. And then me pretending like everything was okay when I went back in care of my dad. So a lot of this comes from just trying to just survive and fit in. So let's see. It wasn't long before Debbie was permanently removed from my life. So Debbie is my birth mom. And it was by my choice. So it was by my choice at this time where I was done with her. 13, freshman year, I'm done with her. I was trying to focus on the new world I had entered into, which was high school. Although we still had to wear uniforms, we were allowed more freedom with our hair and our makeup and our shoes. That's right, our shoes. That's probably why I like to have so many shoes. I love shoes. So I wore a lot of makeup. I wore a lot of makeup. So much so, I could have put Tammy Faye Baker out of style. And I don't know if you know about Tammy Faye Baker, but Tammy Faye Baker and her husband, was it Jim? They were fraudulent Christian leaders, and they led a lot of people into false prophecies and stole a lot of money and misused the handling of the money. And so they really painted a really bad picture on the Christian church. And then Tammy was just this person online. They would do these um, almost like home shopping. I hope it doesn't look like this, but they would do these videos, and she would wear a ton of makeup, a ton of makeup. Like it would be like clown makeup, and there would be like large mascara. Her hair would be all big. Um, Jewelry, fancy clothes. Just that was the Tammy Faye. Google Tammy Faye Baker, and you will understand what I'm talking about. It was really hokey pokey for any church to be behaving, and in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion. So that was my reference to that I could have put her out of style, right? People talked about me constantly. Probably laughed at me too, but I didn't know any better. They probably did talk about me, but I didn't know any better. Like I didn't really have a real mother figure to guide me with makeup. My stepsister Jamie was kind of tomboyish. My stepmom wore a lot of makeup, and she wore a lot of dark and real heavy makeup. And so, and then I looked at magazines. There was a whole lot of magazines back then that you looked at and you read in the store. You would, go in the aisles and you would just pick up the Bebop magazines, or, the kids magazines, and, look at all their hairstyles and makeup. And that was kind of like your role models. That was your example, makeup. Um, so let's see. During grammar school, we were not allowed to wear any makeup. My mom wore makeup, my stepmom, and I also had magazines for guidance. So I started gaining an impression on others that I was much more mature and older for my age. Apparently, wearing makeup young makes you feel older and look older, which, yes, it does. I noticed the boys, and they definitely noticed me. One time, I snuck out at night with a junior, Clayton. We went to his house where he had his own room, but I got nervous. So there's this upperclassman. I'm like sophomore, freshman. So yeah, I must be. I must be still a freshman. Yeah, I'm still a freshman. And this junior decides to come on to me, and he was hot. Don't get me wrong, but he was also taking advantage of me, and he was staying at his parents' house as well. And he took me into his bedroom and he tried to fool around with me. And obviously, I was a little too young and uncomfortable. And so, yeah, it didn't go well. Um, so I snuck out of the house to be with him, right? I snuck out of the house to be with him. Wow. All right. Okay, so we're over at his place, right? We ended up kissing and playing around, but I got nervous. It was my first time I had been with a boy. It really was. It was my first time I had really been with a boy. He wanted to have sex. It was really apparent he wanted to have sex. But I didn't. I was like, no way. No way am I having sex this young with you in this situation, this way. It was just weird. When I refused, he quickly got upset. He got dressed and took me home. So yeah, it was that immediately. The minute I rejected him, he rejected me, and he took me home, which I was fine with. I was like, okay, but I was still a little scared to go home. I was in some big trouble. Little did I know that my brother had been looking for me throughout the city frantically the entire time. When I finally returned home that night, everyone was waiting for me in the living room, and they were furious at me. So this was tradition. When you messed up in our house, the whole family was going to be woken up, and they were all aware of your situation. They're all going to be there in the living room waiting for you to face your crime when you come walking in that door in shame or whatever. So, yep. So when I finally returned home that night, everyone was waiting for me, and they were furious. After that, I was grounded the rest of the freshman year. Yeah, so I tried to explain whatever, but I was grounded the whole rest of my freshman year. Like, no privileges. I think my cell phone was taken away. I couldn't have friends over. I couldn't go over to anybody's house. Like, those were the important things back then. We didn't have social media or anything. Um, so if I wanted to see my friends, they had to come over to my house. So like I couldn't go over to theirs. They had to come over to my house. It was brutal. Not only because I was in trouble, but rumors had started spreading around me at school. So yeah, horrible rumors started spreading around me from Clayton about me. Clayton started a smear campaign against me across campus and told everyone I had sex with him. He told everything ugly things like I was easy. It reminded me of a story that my Aunt B had once shared about how the same thing had happened to her. Was I repeating history? So when I was, so these are chapters 2. When I would party with my aunt, well, not party, I mean, I was a kid, I would go over to my aunt's house and she would party in front of me, she would often share stories about her own experiences in high school. She would often share about how she was labeled a slut and that she would, you know, she was promiscuous, obviously, she was promiscuous, but she was labeled, and so she was treated and ostracized in a way where men also took advantage of her and treated her unfairly. Women and girls and people judged her. So she was also going through her own little situation, just like I was going through. So it was a little ironic that here I am repeating the same steps as my aunt. And she would guide me. She would be like, Cheyenne, just make smart decisions. Don't do what I did. Don't, and I wasn't even sleeping with the person. I didn't even do anything with these guys. All it was just straight above the clothes kind of stuff in my freshman year. It wasn't even that like in depth. So, but they made it out to be so much more horrible. And so I was like, wow. So instantly I had to fight that reputation. I had to constantly fight that reputation of not being the easy girl and being like, hey, wait a minute. But it was hard. It was really, really hard. That was really messed up. That was really messed up of that guy, Clayton, to do. And also this other guy, Ryan. And you're going to hear about him. I swear. This happens now. I'm sure it's even worse now. And this was back in the 90s. Early 90s. Okay, so he told everyone I had sex with him. He told everything ugly things like I was easy. It reminded me of a story about my Aunt B, who once shared about the story that happened to her. Was I repeating history? So then, yeah. One night at a basketball game, another junior, upperclassman, Ryan B, asked me to go for a walk around campus. So we're at a basketball game at our high school, and it's on our campus, and whatever, you're talking with people and they invite you outside. But I knew what that meant. And then he started walking me down the corridors of our high school where all the lockers are. And then we were starting to make a right towards where the bushes were and out of like the scope of people. And I'm like, okay. So go for a walk around campus. When we did, he ended up taking me between two bushes and forcing his hand down my pants, almost pulling them off. I yelled no and pushed him off of me. He got himself together and walked away saying, fuck you, slut. He did. Yep, he just walked away. Fuck you, slut. And left me there alone. I cried. Yeah, I cried. And then I got myself together and then I went home. So yeah, I went through the emotions of all that had happened to me. That was pretty traumatizing. It's pretty close to almost being raped. If you want to, nowadays it would be. And so then I had to collect myself. Then I'd go back into the gymnasium. I had to kind of let people know I was leaving. And then I went home. I had my own car at that time. No, I didn't have my own car. I was a freshman, sophomore. So yeah, I had to call my parents and they had to come. And I remember how uncomfortable that was. And then I didn't say anything, of course, because how dare I? And then more shit started to happen at high school. That's okay. That's okay. Because my overall theme is overcoming adversity, as you will see in everything that I share. So he left me there alone. I cried, then got myself together and went home. And what I mean is, I called my parents and I went home. And that was very, very hard for me to get through. So now we're on page 54, The Devil and Debbie. So this is an interesting story here. So I'm freshman year. I don't even know how to drive. I haven't even been taken out on a car yet. I'm just starting to begin the avenues of gonna work. I know I'm gonna work. I need to, if I'm gonna get a car, I know I need to work to get part of it. So this is very interesting, this next story that transpires. So this is 1992. 1992. In my freshman year of 1992, Debbie lingered in and out of my life, Debbie being my birth mom. She was always either inside or out of prisons or jail, so much that it was hard to keep track of it any longer. She had almost become estranged to me, and by that time she had started using heroin, a very dangerous drug. Yet I still had a fishing line reeled out for her. One typical weekend, Debbie, who was living in Fresno by this time, wanted to have a visit with me. She wanted to take me to the zoo. My father drove over my my father drove over to her house and dropped me off. He didn't even get out of the car. So my birth mom sometimes had a way of finding a house and a way to support herself and get a house here in Fresno. So then I would go over there and my dad would drive me over there. So that's one of these situations. So my dad would often never really want to say hi to her. He would just drop me off and I'd be like, okay, Dad, I'm good. And he'd leave. It'd be kind of scary in ways, but whatever. Um, so I walked inside the house to greet Debbie and saw that she was getting ready. She was never much of a clean person, and the house was messy. There wasn't much furniture, and her mattress sat on the floor. So her mattress sat on the floor. She didn't even really have a bed. The kitchen was quite bare, and there wasn't even a clean glass to drink water out of. So it was very dirty. Eventually, she got ready, and we left in her beat up Pinto car. So she had like one of these old Pinto cars that was classic back then. That was awesome, two door. Um, we got to the zoo and started our adventure. I observed how Debbie seemed to become more and more intoxicated throughout the day. I checked the thermos. So she had like this thermos. I guess kind of like what I carry. But it's not always carried with alcohol. There's water in it most of the time. Um, so checked the thermos she had brought and saw that it contained vodka. By the time we were ready to leave, it had become apparent that she couldn't drive us home. Then I had to take the driver's seat. Sorry, it's getting dark outside, and that's okay. They want to see in, you're going to see in. We have like 30 minutes or so to go, and that's okay. All right, so now I'm like 13, 14 years old, and I've never even been in the driver's seat of a car. And now I'm having to drive Debbie, put her in the driver's seat, and like deal with her driving down, right? So, and she got crazy. So I placed Debbie in the passenger seat and strapped her in. Then I got into the driver's seat and started the car. At 13 years old, I had never driven a car before, but had seen it done in the movies. So I was like just repeating what was in the movies. Kind of like what a lot of us kids did. Um, so my movie knowledge led my way, and I drove us back to her house. I remember driving out of the zoo and onto Belmont Avenue. So Belmont Avenue is a street here in Fresno, California, and it's not in the best of neighborhoods, but it used to. I think now they fixed it in the railroad. I'm not sure, but 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it used to go underneath the railroad tracks. I remember driving. Let's see. Yeah, I remember driving out of the zoo and onto Belmont Avenue under the underpass that was a 2-lane and quite narrow and very quite narrow. It was just a 2-lane road that went under this underpass, walls on all the sides, like a little divider and 2 lane, like, and glaring lights, like going through that. It was very sketchy. Uh, let's see. So I drove us down the underpass, gripping the steering wheel tightly, praying that I wouldn't crash into the walls, and drove us back onto the street we were on. So I was like just praying, knuckle bearing it on the steering wheel, going down Belmont. Oh my God, please, as we go under, and then we go up on top, and then we make it up back on top. And the whole time I'm just like, please don't crash into the wall. Please, please, and let her not go psycho on me and her drunken, crazy, you know, whatever. Oh. So I finally made it, and I continued on Belmont Avenue when I figured out where we were. So this was interesting. So I was that young, and I knew where we were. I was like, holy cow, I put everything together. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I go this way, then we're into the neighborhood, and we can get off the street, and we're into the neighborhood and a little bit safer. So I figured out where we were, and that if I turned into the neighborhood, her house was not too far. So I turned into the neighborhood and immediately felt safer. That busy street was really scary. Hell yeah, it was. As I continued to drive to her house, she began to slap my head, yelling at me to turn around and go to the liquor store. Yeah, my birth mom is slapping my head at 13 years old, telling me to turn around and stop driving and let her drive. Can you imagine a kid like behind the steering wheel, like fighting their mom? Like, oh my God. Oh my God. Crazy. Okay. So let's see. I refused and told her no. We continued to fight, Debbie opening the car door, threatening to jump out. I kept shouting for her to stop. Eventually, we made it to her house. So, yeah, she would try to jump out of the car. By that point, I was shaking like a leaf. I got her inside the house and laid her down on her mattress. She passed out immediately, usually always when she was inside. All I had to do was just get her down on the bed, just let her pass out, give her something to drink, and she was good to go. So she would pass out immediately. Then I looked for a phone and called my father. So I didn't even really have a whole lot of communication at this time. Like, I don't recall really having a whole cell phone or anything solid. It was still the dial phone, the house phone. She might have had a cell phone, but it was still. So I had to rely on something. And so I remember scrounging around her house and being like, holy shit, I need to call my dad. I need to get out of here. I'm ready to go home. So let's see. So I looked for a phone and called my father. He came to get me soon, and he could detect the horror on my face. He asked me what had happened, and I told him everything. He asked me if things like that had been going on the entire time. I told him that yes, and he guessed correctly. It was after that moment that Debbie no longer saw me, and I was no longer wanted to be in her life. So it was at that moment where I was like, I'm done. I'm done. You're going to do whatever you want to do. I'm going to be with my dad, and we're going to just forget you, Debbie. It was so traumatic every time she was in my life. Like, so I had to just draw the line and say, this is enough. So, new year, new me. So we're page 56. No matter how hard it was during the first year of high school. So this is all in my first year of high school. I remember how much I got to learn and got to just and gained from just life. I'm sorry. I got to learn and gain not just from life, but from my teachers as well. Mr. McClure, my English teacher, Mr. McClure, was the one man who made a significant mark in my life. He taught me English and contemporary literature. He taught me all about Civil War. We were all required to read a certain number of books each year, in which I read many: Mark Twain, Emily Dickens, Shakespeare, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and The Native Son by Richard Wright, to name a few that helped me escape my miserable world. That was when I fell in love with books and writing. So I read a ton of books. From eighth grade, they required us to have like 3 books written, and they all had to come from different genres of writing, and we had to write a report on them to get into English freshman year at Memorial, San Joaquin Memorial. Then each year for 3 years, we had to do the same thing, advancing our reading into books and writing reports onto those books to get into the next English class. So you can understand maybe why my love of books and English. Like, I came from a girl who couldn't spell because of my learning difficulties and all the shit my birth mom put me through. So to go to this kind of level of education and literature and reading and like stories was just, oh my God, it was so, so, so cool. So cool. Like Mark Twain, I'll repeat, Mark Twain, Emily Dickens, Shakespeare, Oscar Wilde, Richard Wright. So these were, whoa. And that's just a tip of the iceberg of there's so many more. Anyways, okay. Sophomore year arrived, and I realized that I had survived my freshman year. So I made it out of my freshman year, and now I'm finally into my second year of high school, and it's getting a little better. I was ready to start over again and hoped that people had forgotten about all the rumors from the previous year. My stepsister, had started driving by this point and would take me to school in Grommet, which she nicknamed her car. So it was, I don't know, it probably still is popular to name your car. I've never named my car. My sister always named her car. A lot of people name their car. So my sister named her car Grommet. Grommet, Grammit. Okay? It was a 4-door white Honda Accord. I would sit in the front until she would pick up all her friends. So I got to sit in the front, and then she would go down to the Bullard area. She would pick up all of her Bullard friends. They would all pile in the front. I'd be pushed to the back, and because the 2 of us, we had to go to the same school, but she had all these other friends. So you're going to hear about all this. It was fun. Let's see. Then I would move to the back seat and get squeezed there until we got to school. She would pick up so many people. She would pick up so many people that our arms would be hanging out of the windows. Like, we would be sandwiched in that damn car in the back seat. There'd probably be like 6 of us in the 4 seat, or 3, but there'd probably be 6 of us. Some of us on the laps. Like, there'd be so much. Oh my God, there'd be so many people in that car. We were hanging out the windows. She was the best, though. Jamie was the best stepsister that I could have ever asked for. She would blast Steve Miller Band. On the radio and dance in the car. Or dance, like with the car. She would take the steering wheel and move the car side to side with the beat and shake the car. So she would literally like bump, 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 and she would move the car, and the whole like front of the car would move, and we'd all kind of squish in the car, and we'd like dance with the car, and she'd like, and then we'd balance with the car. We were the original OGs of the what is it? The low riding down the street. Oh my gosh, she knew how to dance with her card, and everybody would be dancing. Oh my gosh. So we would all lean to the side, to side inside the car, laughing and giggling because of their silly driving. So around Old Fig Garden here in Fresno, there's some curvy roads, and she would take us, and sometimes she knew like how to take us fast and slow. And so she knew us all piled up in there. We'd all like, sandwich to the right and sandwich to the left. And, it'd be like hella fun. It'd just be hella fun. Let's see. She made going to high school all that much better for me. So she understood what I was going through. My stepsister was really my advocate. She really was like you mess with my younger sister, you're gonna have to deal with me. So let's see. I knew she always had my back. I also attempted to run for vice president of the class. I don't even know why I did this. But was up against a popular girl and lost. Oh my God, that was so horrible. I remember going up in front of the class to present my speech. I was only 2 words in and I panicked and lost my voice. I was so embarrassed, but I was happy that I at least tried. So yeah, oh my God, I thought I had it. I thought I had it in me. Oh my gosh, that was the first time ever going up in front of an audience, right? And I'm up against this popular girl, and she was this pretty white girl, blonde hair, blue eye. Everybody knew her, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, I'm vice president, blah, blah. And I gave a good speech. But, oh my God, I remember I started looking out, and I had it in the beginning, and I started looking out, and I'm like, oh my God. And you don't want to just look out like too much. You want to just stay focused a little bit. Like they teach you all these techniques. And so something triggered me. Something got me awry, and my eyes started twitching and my voice started crackling, and I'm just like, I couldn't do anything. And I'm just like, okay, vote for me, bye. Get me off the stage. But it really did teach me a lot. Like it taught me a lot. Like even though I was hella embarrassed, people were like, oh, you did good. And I was just like, I did good. Yeah, right. But, it's just, those little learning moments, at least I tried, but Jesus, I crumbled. And I still remember that now, like when I go up and speak and I'm just like, Cheyenne, you got this. Just relax. Like, don't worry about their opinion. Don't even like, this isn't anything about that. Like, this is about your story. This is about like, try to just zone out of all of that crap. Right. So, okay. Okay. So this is around the time where Debbie, my birth mom, reared her head up again, where we are 7:40. Okay. So Debbie, my birth mom, reared her head up again. This time she was living in Sacramento, California. We were informed that she had been pregnant and that the baby had been taken away by the state because it was so addicted to drugs. Debbie had become a full-fledged heroin addict. She was even arrested for child endangerment at the hospital, and all official rights to the baby were taken away from her. So, huge shock, right? Like now I have was potential possible sibling, and my birth mom's just suddenly out there. Okay, hey, now there's this baby, and I didn't know if it was going to survive. None of us, we figured it was going to die because of the way Debbie was living. Um, it was really sad to hear of this. Um, so it was a baby boy, and he was taken into foster care. So she gave birth to the baby, and miraculously, he survived. He was taken into foster care. I was so young back then. So in my sophomore year, I was so young that it was such a distant connection. But I, anything that had to do with my birth mom, I was like, I didn't want anything to do with it. And so I just kind of took a stance back from this baby in the beginning. I was so young back then that knowing about another possible sibling out there didn't faze me all that much. I figured that it was most likely going to die, it being the baby. I figured that the baby was probably going to die. Or be permanently retarded, because my birth mom was on some really bad drugs. She was a crackhead by this time, heroin, anything you name it. She was schizophrenic. She was already losing her mind. So to think this baby had any kind of strong chance was very slim. So, however, I remember feeling sad and happy for the baby boy. I remember telling myself to never forget about him and to try to find him someday. After all, he was the only blood sibling that I had in this world. I continued in school, learning all that I could. So, yeah, I kind of put it in my memory bank that, I have a possible birth brother out there, or, yeah, um, half brother, at least, half brother by blood, and that someday I might want to connect with him. So I put it in my memory banks to do someday. But I didn't know how. Okay. I also decided to volunteer as a football sports trainer. This was fun. The football team had a lead female sports trainer that took care of all the athletes' needs, such as working out with them, making sure they adhered to their workout schedules, ate right, and practiced well. She would also tend to their injuries and tape up their shins, ankles, wrists, shoulders, and ribs for them. So literally, our high school had this really prestigious football team that, I mean, all the sports at San Joaquin Memorial are prestigious. They're all leading into college scholarships and into pro. But we had the best trainers, and I can't remember her name. I want to guess, but I'm not going to guess. But she was amazing, and she was tough. She knew these athletes. She knew the injuries. She was highly skilled, and she worked out with these men, and she worked out with the women too. She worked out with the soccer players, the volleyball players, um, the basketball players. Working with our injuries, like she was like a sports trainer, like the one that you would go to, you know, for injuries. And so there was this locker room at our high school, and it was pretty elaborate, and we had like tables and everything. And she was like this sports trainer, and I really admired her, and I looked up to her, and I wanted to be a sports trainer. I don't know where it came from, but I thought it was pretty cool. So I got to kind of go under her wing and learn under her. And this was kind of unheard of. Actually, I kind of had to get permission, and I don't talk about that in my book, and I wish I did, but it was unheard of for someone like me to just be like, hey, can I start learning the ropes of how to be a sports trainer? Like, because I don't know, I was interested in so much things educationally wise. Like, I was just curious about so much stuff. So anyways, Okay. So that's a little hindsight about how I got into being a sports trainer in a way and meeting this wonderful woman. Um, so I thought that was really neat and decided to join the team. So apparently they were looking for volunteers. So that must have been the thing. They were looking for volunteers for student trainers to learn the ropes, to tape up ankles, to treat the sports athletes, to just give them water, to be like the what is it now called ball girls and water girls and whatever you call them. They didn't really they called us trainers. They called us sports trainers. They didn't label us girls. I don't know. Anyways, I thought that was really neat and decided to join the team, but it wasn't easy for me to fit in at first. The football training room smelled like old gym socks and sweaty underclothes. It was the worst. The worst. Oh my God. It was too musty even to breathe in there, and the air almost had a fog like haze to it. There were sweaty and smelly men walking around with no consideration for any of the females around. Nope, nope. Oh my God, it was so disgusting. It was so disgusting. Ugh. Respect for females was not even an option for them. So, I mean, we are in the early 90s, but still, women weren't given a whole lot of respect. They still aren't. Don't even get me started on that subject, but they still aren't. But they weren't definitely back then, especially not in this territory where it's all men and you're female in their territory. So we were in their gym on their turf. I was even I was even taught how to tape every body part there was possibly to be taped to prevent an injury. When you walked in, there were four athletic tables to the right. The players would always sit there, legs extended out, so you stood near their feet, and it was not all that pleasant having a man's foot in your face. Again, the smell. So you would kind of walk in this room, and there would be a bunch of tables lined up, and there would be a bunch of guys sitting on the tables, another guys sitting around, their shoes off, their feet ready for them to be taped, at the end of the table. And then all you have to do is just grab the tape, the shin guard, whatever it's called. It's like gauze. You put that before it, and then you just tape them up, and then off they go. It's a pretty quick process. But the smell, the feet, the ventilation, it's pretty bad. Pretty bad. So I was taught like how to tape ankles, how to tape like your wrist, your thumbs, your fingers, like your wrists, how to tape elbows, how to tape shins, how to tape knees, how to tape ankles, how to tape toes, how to tape feet, how to tape arches, how to build arches. So I learned quite a bit of taping techniques. It was really rad. And they actually liked going to me because I was really tight and precise. Um, I thought that was really neat and decided to join the team. Let's see. Okay, I thought it was really neat. There were sweaty and smelly men walking around with no consideration for any of the females. Okay, we're on their turf. I was even taught how to tape every part of the body, legs. Okay, again, the smell. Uh, I was taught how to place the pre-tape first. First, that's the gauze like tape that was soft. It helped to create a barrier between the skin, hair, and the actual athletic tape. I would wrap the pre-tape in a figure eight around the ankle ever so slightly, leaving the heel and toes exposed to breathe. They had to be very I had to be very careful so as to not make it too tight because you had to allow for room. However, some athletes liked it super, super tight. I would then take the figure eight up the foot, wrap it around the foot, and up around the lower calf, and then I would repeat the same process of the athletic tape. Ugh. Only this time making perfect seams without any bubbles or bumps. It needed to be perfect, smooth, and tight. So it was really important that this tape was around their ankles, and anybody can attest to this, that it needed to be just without the bubbles and all. It needed to be completely really smooth and tight and perfect. Um, let's see where we were at 7:52. Okay, we're gonna go to high school sweethearts, and then we're gonna stop there. I think we should stop there. It helped the athletes not get injured while performing. It needed to be comfortable and have ease in their shoes, as well as allow them enough room to stretch while they played the game. It needed to sustain the same support as applied the first time. Taping up body parts was a very important skill that I learned to master, and I loved it. Athletes started to like to come to me because their ankles or wrists were for their ankles and wrists to be taped. Being an athletic trainer made me feel important. When the game was going on, the main trainer and I would stand on the sidelines holding water bottles, watching out for any injuries. We were making sure that we were ready to sprint out onto the field and tend to the athletes when and if they needed it. I also learned to take down the plays the head coach would give to the quarterback. So this was a trip. This was a hoot. This is what I wrote. This was a hoot. I remember that there were two coaches then, Coach McCarthy and Coach Megan. Coach McCarthy was this huge teddy bear of a guy. He was full of the game, energy, and love for football. Love you, Megan. McCarthy. Sorry, love McCarthy. While Coach Megan was harsh, loud, and tough. Still love you, Megan. He would swear at his players. He would swear at his players often and stomp on the ground when the plays didn't go according to his plan. I was often asked to take down plays, which meant standing near the head coach and taking down the plays he would give to the quarterback. So that meant standing right next to Coach Megan as he's screaming loud, mad, angry at the quarterback, and I'm supposed to write down all the plays he's giving the quarterback, and I'm supposed to keep my cool. And it was pretty wild. I've never been in such a situation, but it was pretty wild. So I did just that, but it was not easy writing down plays in code. So there was all this football code, all this language, like, don't even ask me, but it was just this code. And I understood it, but it was just this code of what it meant. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Writing down plays and code as quickly as they came off his tongue during the loud football game with crowds yelling and bands playing. So Megan would be yelling, do this number, right wing, 22, 46, 38, blah, blah, blah. And all the while he's yelling at the quarterback, and I'm trying to pick up the call or the play, and I write it down, and there's the crowd going off, and I'm just like, yeah, got it. And he's like, you got it. And I'm like, I got it. And I really actually was good at it. I did get it. I got Megan's plays, but he was crazy. He was a funny guy. Oh my God. Anyways. So like there would be time where I'd joke with him, right? Because I couldn't just be all serious. Like I was like, level up a little bit, dude. I would joke around with Coach Megan when I could, and would ask him if he wanted me to include all his curse words as well So he wanted me to take notes, right? Like verbatim notes. And I was like, okay, does that mean all your curse words? And he's like, very funny, Cheyenne. And I'm like, well, you cuss a lot. Love you, Megan. Love you, Coach Megan. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So he would just look at me with a smirk and I would giggle. And like literally, like he had a big heart. He had a soft side. And that's how I warmed up to him. I was like, and so he giggled and it was just a fun moment with me and Coach Megan. Volunteering as a sports trainer helped me to make a comeback from what had happened to my reputation in freshman year. It really did. Doing what I did helped reconcile all the stupid slut rumors, all the tramp, all that stupid stuff. My freshman year, they started seeing me as somebody who was down to earth, smart, capable. I don't even know. Like, I don't even know, but it happened. People started noticing me in a different light, and that meant a lot to me. It really did. Popularity was very important to everyone back then. See, in my high school, it was all about your status, who you dated, how you dressed, how you wore your hair. My dragonflies. I got two. Designer clothes were popular. And knowing the athletes personally was also a good thing. If you needed anything, they would have your back, like a fight or a brawl or tough or needed a tough guy. You could call on the football squad. They'd have your back. Okay. It was nice to know that they had our backs because we had their bodies and our care after all. So that was kind of a neat little comparison I put because literally, I mean, I was taking care of their ankles and their wrists and their shins, and that was helping them become successful athletes to get on to the next level of pro or college or whatever because our high school was highly looked upon with scholarships. So you wanted to make sure that they did not get injured, and they appreciated us taking care of them. Um, so it was nice to know they had our backs because we had their bodies. And being a star athlete was very important to them. Our high school paved the way for athletic college scholarships, as well as free rides to big name universities. So just like I said. I had made it to be an upperclassman by the time my let's see, yeah, upperclassman by the time my junior year rolled around 1994. 1994. It meant that I was able to have lunch on the junior lawn. So in high school, we had like this sections where like the lower classmen could only eat, the freshmen and sophomore could only eat in their designated area, and then like the juniors got to eat on this certain lawn, and then the seniors had their privileges, and even parking the juniors started to drive and they had their parking lot, and then the seniors had their parking lot. And oh my god, status, right? Status. Anyways, oh, I just mentioned that. Popularity was very important to everyone back then. See, in my high school, it was all about your status, who you dated, how you dressed, how you wore your hair, designer clothes, you're popular, knowing the athletes personally, if you needed anything. So, okay, sorry, I went back a little bit. It meant so junior year, having lunch on the junior lawn, which was a grassy hill under a weeping willow tree. So it was this beautiful grassy lawn under a tree, and the cafeteria is not too far, and then the fields, football fields not too far. All the cool kids from my class used to eat lunch there. It meant being able to park in the parking lot, which was closer. It meant formals and proms. My sister and I weren't able to go to formal or prom when we were lower classmen, even if someone asked us. So even as a freshman, sophomore, we weren't allowed to go to the formal or prom because that was always for upperclassmen. So even if we were asked, we had to say no. So once we got into junior, senior year, we were then able to go to all these events and parties and things. But so we had accepted that. But when our time finally came, we couldn't wait to be asked. I continued as a sports trainer, and my skills and training improved more and more every day. I enjoyed what I did very much, and it continued to give me a purpose in life. So I continued as a sports trainer. I really loved it. So I did it from like sophomore to junior year. It was really fulfilling to me, and I was really good at it. I was excelling at school and even took AP government class. It meant that I was taking a class that was qualified for college credit, college credits, college credits, college credits. So I was already beginning to work towards college. So back in the 1994, 1995, we were already getting education in high school to prepare us for college. So we were already taking these advanced classes that were in government, in Spanish language, English, math, history, biology, science, all that kind of stuff. And so you could accelerate even faster once you got into college. So you were like dueling up. It was really neat. It was really really neat to be able to do that. It was the first I think that had ever been brought into ability, and I jumped on it. I'm like, yeah, because my parents. It was pretty much we were going to college. We had no choice. We were going to go to college, and we needed to finish in 4 years because they wanted to pay only for 4 years. So as much as I could do to advance myself, that's what I did as a high school student. Okay. So by junior year, you were expected to start looking at colleges and thinking about your future after high school. I got my worker's permit by then, too, and started working at a bookstore. At a bookstore. Yes, I started working at a bookstore, my very first job. And it was actually Walden Books, which turned into B. Dalton, which is now like Barnes and Noble. I think Barnes and Noble bought them all out, but how ironic, right? Anyways, okay. The rule in our house was that if you wanted a car, you had to pay for half of what it cost. So if you wanted a $3,000 car, or if your car that you found was $3,000, you had to come up with $1,500. Or if your car was $5,000, you had to come up with $2,500. So you could esteem really high, and do what you wanted to do. But if you wanted to drive, by the time you got driving privileges, which back in my time was 15 a learner's permit and 16, which I think has changed a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. It's like 18 now. I think it's a little late, but anyways, I was determined to drive on point, and so I did. So I worked in a bookstore in a mall, and it was the Fashion Fair Mall, and it was when there was still a Macy's and a Gottschalk's and a Weinstock's, and then there was a Walden Books in there because there was a B. Dalton, or maybe it was Walden Books in Sierra Vista Mall and B. Dalton in Fashion Fair. But anyways, I started in Fashion Fair or Sierra Vista Mall. One of them. The rule in our house was if you wanted a car, you had to pay half of the cost. I worked as much as I could because I was determined to get a car by the time I turned 16 years old. And that leads us to the subchapter of high school sweethearts, which that's where I meet my first boyfriend of ever, and I lose my virginity. Go into talking about that. But anyways, this has been fun. It's nighttime outside. It's a little dark in the setting, but I hope you've enjoyed this reading, and it didn't get too bad. But please resume with me. I have. Hang on. So after tonight, we are going to be September 20th, which you don't have to feel like you have to be a part of this women's group. You could be a man and you can attend online. So don't feel like you have to be just a woman to attend on this Saturday, September 20th. But I'm going to be speaking for about 30 minutes. So you can join me, listen for it, and then it's going to shut off because then it goes private for all the people who are in the group that want to get more private. Then we're going to come back together and resume chapter 3 reading here at 11 a.m. 10-4. 10-4, Roger out. You got that? Copy that? Copy that? Copy that? And then we're going to just continue more readings about chapter 3 because chapter 3 is quite long. So we're going to do more 7 p.m. readings. And I don't know, if you like it, thank you. Give me some feedback. I appreciate it always on my channel. May you go in peace. And we are done. So, bye. See you next time.